Well. Welcome back to Krown's Cave, battling all sorts of audio issues today. But hey, do you want to wish you all this nice Friday? Yeah, hey, happy Friday. Hope you made it all the way to Friday. But as always, cryptocurrency doesn't sleep. So, no rest for the wicked on this weekend. In fact, Bitcoin starting to really wind itself up. I do think that we're going to be seeing some nice resolutions on the medium time frames coming in this weekend. So I would expect actually some nice little moves here. And with that said, I do want to wish you the best, the happiest of the happiest, as we like to say. And let's initiate that teleportation. Come on, baby. Teleport me in. Beam me up, Scotty. Oh, beautiful. Fucking love it, Bitcoin. And so right here, we'll start off with the 4-hour. 4-hour total time frame, still holding that blue 3.7 exponential moving average. We've seen a lot of wicks into this region, but a lot of wicks getting picked up as well, which is more important to me. And as you can see, when we talk about something like this, we see this signature a lot where a major moving average will gather price action, and if there's so many attempts that fail to break it, typically the path of least resistance is, well, in this case would be the upside. So whenever I see something like this, I actually do lean a little bit towards an upwards resolution on the very low time frames, to be fair. We're going to show a ton of bearish shit a little bit later, but as you can see right here, if we put on the drawing tools, pretty damn easy chart to actually deal with. We have this lower blue box territory right here, kind of governing the lows right around about 9,700 to 9,750. Any sort of a closure on a 4-hour or higher above that below that region, and I'd be targeting moves lower, and we're going to start to really get a little bit more Jedi-like into the targets, both to the downside and to the upside. And by the same token, we do see this more preliminary resistance right here, right around 9,900. That was our target from this, our very short-term target from this morning stream. We did hit that. However, if this area gets taken out, even with like an hourly little close above, I'll be targeting to move into this next blue box territory right here at about 10,000 to 10,150-ish region. Now, let's actually go over here to CMEs, because this is really where all the action is going on. And looking at CMEs, we do see a very obvious forming, I guess is the right terminology, but we see a nice little, well, not necessarily little, but a nice symmetrical triangle forming right here. And the reaction off the lows has been pretty damn good once again. We do actually see some, bulls defending this area, which is exactly what you need. And in fact, I actually do look at this as a wildly positive thing. But more importantly, the resolution of this consolidation really starting to kind of populate itself in a way that we can actually document and base trades off of. So with regards to what we looked at on lower time frames on spot, we have obvious areas. Now we can actually document targets, and going off this right here, if we actually do break this to the downside, which keep in mind, CMEs do have about a $200 premium on price action right now for spot. If we break below about 9,800, which would be about 9,650 to maybe 9,700 on CMEs, then I would be looking for a move, a perceived move down to around 8,900, right around here. By the same token, if we actually do hook back around, which it does look like we want to test back around, 10.2 at the very least, but if we could actually resolve this to the upside by closing above this top resistance here at about 10.3, 10.350, then I'd be looking at a target back up towards about 11.2 region, as you can see right here, kind of filling that past prior gap. So, and also kind of fulfilling these last little local highs here. So an area of interest nonetheless. And my point is that is not to guess this next move perfectly, which I actually do lean to the upside here. I actually do think that Bitcoin breaks this overall to the upside. It's more of an actual trade idea now, because we actually have everything put in stone. So what we were talking about before on most of the live streams, most of the videos, is it's kind of time to be a scalper, just playing support and resistance, because there's no real like major trades to be made. The greater name of this is just one massive consolidation, which is completely fine to do after about 6 months of straight up, right? It's kind of be expected, I suppose. So the greater timeframes are still just out of consolidation. I'm not looking for any major resolution here, as that would imply either a move basically above 13,000 or below about 9,500. So we're actually a little bit closer to to the downside resolution of that. But I do think that the lower timeframes do work their way back up around here, and we actually do initiate the more bullish of that of that interpretation. And the reason why I say that, and the reason also why I kind of lean to the upside, is because Mrs. Litecoin is shaping up to be a much more easy to read chart, if I get my words out properly, as I make sure that everything's working on over here. Okay, good. Okay, great. And in Mrs. Litecoin on the 2-day has been holding this cyan 89 exponential moving average extremely valiantly. And whenever I see a major moving average hold like this on a higher time frame, I really want to consult with my momentum oscillator to kind of judge what this is looking like. Typically, if they're turning down, we're probably going to break it. Typically, if they're turning up, we're probably going to hold it. And so when we look at our 2-day Stokes right here, we're actually having a fresh cross to the upside from the more critical zone. The last two crosses that we had to the upside were actually out of the May 3rd base right here, from about $80 to all the way to $150. And the one before that, even more powerful down or around 29th of January out of this base, basically leading the whole market outside, outside the bear market, going from about $35 basically to, $150 essentially. So almost a 5x there. So we're kind of, the signature is good. Not only that, but 2-day RSI does have a very slight amount of bullish divergence going on here. So I do lean to the upside. But regardless of what my thoughts are, remember, I don't trade my opinion. I trade technical analysis. And of course, this is never financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. If the SEC is listening, well, go fuck yourself. But don't fuck me in the process of that. So with regards to that, a very easy and deductive way of trading this would just be looking at this last prior 2-day that we set in yesterday night at 8 p.m. Eastern time, and if we trade above the high of it, this will be confirmed as a local low in my opinion. This will confirm this as hidden bullish divergence. That would confirm this as bullish divergence, and then I'd be targeting to move back up towards 101, 102, and then realistically probably back up towards like 106, kind of this little local high right here. So again, just a very easy way to trade it. And of course, if the bearish resolution happens as well, it's actually just as easy. In fact, if we get any sort of a 2-day that'll close below the 89 at about $90.50, and I'd start to prepare for moves down to $80 would be first target, and second target probably in the mid 70s. Or you could make the judgment on a daily, any sort of a daily that'll close below 88.25, and I'd be looking for a move at the very least to about $80. So again, a little bit of an easier way to trade that. We do see daily Stokes to the upside. We do see 2-day Stokes to the upside, and we actually see 3-day Stokes looking like they want to turn relatively soon. So whenever I see a signature like that, I actually do lean towards the upside here, and I think that Litecoin probably does lead this party. But again, remember, my opinion is fucking worthless. Technical analysis showing the obvious areas of interest essentially here. So going on to Bitcoin, let's go look at those same time frames, kind of judge them out. We do see daily right here, not looking as orderly, but we do see some nice higher lows here being put in place, although unconfirmed as of right now. We're going to have another daily dollar close in about an hour. It's at 8 p.m. Eastern time, so yeah, about an hour and 45 minutes. So hopefully I get this video up before then. But if we close anything like this, then I would be looking for another test of the 50 exponential moving average right here, right around 10,000-ish region. If we close anywhere below 97.50, if today's daily doodle closes anywhere below 97.50, I probably going to start to lean to the downside. We do see daily Stokes actually to the downside as well, fresh cross to the downside, although you do see I won't say that. I don't think it's as relevant. You do also see daily RSI giving you no real indications here. We are finding some comfort in the bearish control zone for the first time in a very long time, actually since February of 2019 of this year. So that was before the market cycle really changed. So we really are doing something new here. But the historical volatility percentile still giving us actually our first initial etchings of this starting to cool off. We have actually gotten below the moving average on this. We were literally living above the moving average for, holy shit, about oh my god, all the way back on over here, 27th of June, basically to about a month. My god, man, that's fucking intense. So now we're actually really starting to cool off. So that really does confirm this in my mind as a massive consolidation, both on the on like the medium time frames, kind of getting this area right here, basically the symmetrical triangle that we just looked at on CMEs, and then the greater picture, this whole guy right here, still being related to each other, and we still have yet to have a resolution above or below it. Again, remember that would really require a move past 13,000 or below about 9,500 region on like a closing basis, on at the very least a daily, and we just haven't seen that yet. It's just more or less been sideways. So it's really been a great time to either be playing options, which is what I've been doing, and actually I do my position from last week just expired this morning, so I got to close all. I think I had like a 3 Bitcoin profit on that. Whatever you saw yesterday was basically my profit, maybe a little bit more than that, and now I get to reconstruct the position, essentially doing the same thing, as I also need to kind of cover my my long-term longs as well from 5,200 and 39.30. But with regards to that, more of this sideways is really when I like to play options. Yes, you can be a scalper, which if we find a scalping trade here, I'll be happy to take it. But things have kind of slowed down back in the mud once again. But the scalping is it's a lot more involved, it's a lot more intense, and realistically for time management, I'd rather just play options to begin with. I just feel a lot more comfortable and a lot more confident playing options, especially in a range like this. This is the time to play these as you benefit from a lack of movement rather than needing movement, which you can't make price action do. And then you can always cover, if things go against you. Anyways, so yeah, I think daily we got that covered. What about 2-day? Two-day also kind of has the same trade as Mrs. Litecoin. If we trade above the high of this past prior 2-day, then I'd be looking for, which is 10,185 on Mexico. Then I'd be looking for another move back up towards about 11, actually almost towards 11,000 really. But first target would be about 10.5, 10.6. Then we could talk about 11,000. By the same token, if we do take out the low of yesterday's 2-day dildo at 94.89.5, then I'd be looking for a move likely to fall through to about 8,900. So if we do initiate the downside, which I'm actually really not, I'm really not leaning towards, at least from this area right here. Maybe more long term I could be, but if we're talking about from this area right here, I would be looking at, while I would be looking at an ultimate target, probably somewhere around 88 to 8,500 region at the very least. There will be bounces along the way. First and foremost, probably somewhere down around here at about 9,300 would be a bounce area, and then at about 88 to 8,900 is the next area that I look for, and then we could talk about 8,500. But with regards to that, let's talk a little bit more about, well, I don't want to go through this whole spiel with the fucking 4-hour death cross. If you want the full explanation of the 4-hour death cross, what I would say is, what I would suggest is to go over, Jesus Christ, that was loud. What's up, Devor? Paolo, welcome, my friend, and pleasure to meet you. What I would say is that longer term, sorry, what was my train of thought right there? Damn it, I lost it. Fuck. I suppose I was talking about this. I was talking about the 4-hour death cross. That's right. If you want the full explanation of that, just go check out one of my videos from either, I guess yesterday's probably the last time I did it, or any of the past few, maybe like anything in the past week. I basically go over it. But if you want to just take my word for it, we do have the 4-hour death cross right on over here, the green 50 exponential moving average and the purple 200 exponential moving average right here, crossing the downside. They are gaining divergence away from each other, so trend is actually strengthening to the downside here. But more importantly, when we've gone over these examples in the past prior upwards market, because Bitcoin is still in an upwards macro market, the results from a death cross have typically taken anywhere, on average, about 2 weeks for it to play out from death cross to golden cross, which I'm really just waiting for the next golden cross to get long once again, like for a more medium or long-term position. And they, at the most, had about a 20% drawdown, and at the least had about a 5% drawdown. In some cases, actually, the low was even put in before the cross officially happened. But if we were to even take the worst-case scenario from this and shave about 20% off this current price action, that would put us where? That would put us around the mid to low 8,000s, right around about 83.50 if you want to do a very specific one right here. Let's see if that matches up with anything else. Well, first and foremost, everyone's talking about the goddamn gap. The fucking gap boys might get their vindication at some point in time, but maybe not just yet. And that'd be coming in right around about 8,500 from 14th of July. Or sorry, not 14th of July, but 14th of June. And then also, of course, we do have this to be aware of as well. Something a little bit more important to me, and that is the weekly 21 exponential moving average. Now, you do see the weekly 21 exponential moving average is coming in right around, if I take all these guys off, it'll probably be easier to see, right around about 81 to 8,300. And the thing is that your 21 on the weekly is typically a target for like a nice consolidation on the same side as the macro trend. So in this case, we're trending the upside. It's actually quite healthy to come back down and test your 21 exponential moving average, on your more prolonged consolidations, which kind of feels like what we're doing right now. Just like to the downside right and over here, it was a great place to be a seller on. And as you can see in the past history of Bitcoin, really like to play it off to the upside right and over here as well, and market cycles before that as well, as you can see, and also to the downside. So we do have a good history of playing off of it. And it's just your traditional asset, major area of interest for like longer term players. Now, if we actually take that just one step further and pair this up with the weekly jewel, we actually do see that the weekly jewel has a very specific signature here that does provide something to go off of. And we do see the light blue oscillator getting into the critical zone above the 80 marker right here. When that happens, and then we get next the red flashing in the background, and then a negative slope on that same light blue oscillator. And if you want to take it on to a fourth step, you could also talk about crossing the pink oscillator to the downside, the slower one. Then each and every time that we've done this in the past of Bitcoin, literally in the history of Bitcoin, each and every time we actually do come back down to test the 21 exponential moving average at the very least. In some cases, even lower than that. We see this first example right here pretty much instantaneously on the next week. Same thing with this one right here. Next week happens. This one right here takes about a month to test the 21, but it does happen. Then this next one right on over here takes about 2 months. 2 months to test the 21, but it does happen. This one about next week or 2 weeks. This one right here, about a couple months. This one almost instantaneously once again. And then obviously the high at 20,000 actually taking about 2 months as well. So as of right now, we do actually have that same signature, right? We do have the light blue oscillator getting into the critical zone, getting red in the background, and getting negative slope, and actually looking like it wants to break the pink as well. So if if we actually do close this next weekly anywhere below the red 10 simple, I really would be looking for that next leg down to the 21 exponential moving average, somewhere around mid to low 8,000s. Currently, it's about 8150, but we'll be rising with each and every passing weekly close, of which we have one coming up in a couple days. So with that said, this is a rather large sample size. If we go all the way back, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're working on number 9 right now, but 8 out of 8 is pretty damn good. And if we go over BLX index, we'll see how much we have here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 examples. 10 out of 10 worked. We're working on number 11 right now. So I would say that this is, would be kind of an anomaly if we don't test the 21. Now it's been about a month since we actually put in this price action right here. So it could technically be another month. That wouldn't be out of the question. But more importantly, if we actually do extend this for another month, and that's going to imply that the 21 exponential moving average gets to travel higher, as it's, as it basically is for each and every passing week. Like I said, about $200. So if we were to extend this for another month, then that would imply that the 21 actually comes down, maybe at around like high 8,000s, maybe low 9,000s, and then perhaps we don't have to go as low. So the more that Bitcoin goes sideways in this region, the more that Bitcoin really draws this consolidation out, the more and more likely that we won't actually have to go down as deep as I think a lot of people want to look at. I think even a lot of people are saying that we're going to reverse to a bear market from here. I'm not bearish on any asset that's above the yellow 21 exponential moving average on the weekly, especially. I mean, that's just like a fucking base. And as I check my notifications here, come on, man, more scam notifications, motherfucker, man. These scammers are so damn dedicated to scamming, like holy shit. Anyways, so yeah, what was I going off of? Yeah, the 21 exponential moving average, as long as we're above there, I'm not bearish on any sort of major asset. And if we take that just one step further, I'm not bearish on any assets that is above the 3-day 200 simple as well, which is currently at around 7,500. So a lot would need to really happen for me to jump on the same side as like the super bears, thinking that this thing is going to come down like sub 6,000 or sub 4,000 or even sub 7,000 really. The one big counterpoint to what I'm saying though is that CMEs do have a nice gap at around that 8,500 level, and a lot of people have been calling for 8,500 for a very long time. So realistically, when everyone's kind of talking about the same thing, when everyone's talking about the same target, it either usually gets front ran, meaning we end higher, which would imply maybe like 88 or 9,000, or we get bulldozed below and get a nasty wick to the downside, which perhaps would imply maybe like 7,500 or somewhere in like the mid 7,000s, I'd imagine. So that is worth mentioning, just because if we do actually initiate the downside, it's either going to be a lot less than what people think or a lot more than what people think, but probably doesn't just give everyone their perfect entries right around 8,500, I'd imagine. Could happen. I very rarely see that happen though. It does happen, but very rarely. Let's go check out GBTC really quick. GBTC right on over here. Where are you, GBTC? Come on, you bitch. There you are. 1249 closed for the week as well. So the weekly actually has been set in stone, and the weekly did the weekly break the 10 simple? It has. Yes, we actually do see a closure below the red 10 simple on the weekly. This is not good here. And in fact, this is the first close below the red 10 simple since literally February of 2019. So about 6 months ago, almost 7 months ago. It's been quite some time. Anyways, is that the first initial etchings of the changing tides in Bitcoin? Perhaps yes. But remember, this is not trade over the weekend, so we'll have to actually wait until next week. And more importantly, when I actually look at the lower time frames here, I actually don't have an issue with this chart. Actually, I really don't have an issue with this chart. In fact, it really looks a lot similar to CMEs to me. Putting in a nice little base of operations here. This one would be a little bit more angled to a bearish interpretation, as it is a descending triangle, and actually the measure move would be directly pointing us down to the gap right here on 8,500 on spot. But more importantly, I actually do think I do identify this as a damn good reaction off the green 50, and I don't think it's ready. I don't think it's gonna break here. I mean, if it does, it does. But we have a very obviously well-defined area to kind of be judging these trades off of, and that's the more important part. As you do see Bitcoin having a little bit of a $20 sell-off right there. Bad. So again, if we come into Monday and we actually do see this, inch back below and maybe even take out this wick low right here, then yes, I think it'd probably be appropriate to say that it's likely to break to the downside. But for now, I'd still give it a little bit of room to breathe. I do not prioritize GBTC. I prioritize CMEs. GBTC is actually my least used subsidiary for looking at Bitcoin price, but it does seem to matter a little bit. And the fact fact is that we see the same, scenario as we do see it basically on CMEs with essentially the same target as well. Anyways, let's go check out traditional markets really quick. 301.30 close for the week. Damn good close. Not just new yearly highs, but new all-time highs. Closing above the last week's high. Fucking nice. So weekly, monthly, still looking bullish to me. I'd have to be bullish on traditional markets. We've been bullish on it for a long time. I don't say this to be arrogant or anything like that, but this is why I say the trend is your friend until the trend. And why I have these silly rules like, hey, if you got the golden cross and you're above the 21, I ain't fucking bearish on you. And what do we see right here? Exactly that. So this is why we've been bullish on SPYs for a long time now and continue to be bullish on SPYs. Again, we're actually kind of doing a little bit of a reaccumulation pattern right here. In fact, I think it's just got resolved to the upside. This looks to me to be a small cup and handle, which actually does have a target somewhere right around 303.5. So if we actually close this next monthly pretty damn well, then I'd be looking for this to probably leg higher. It sounds crazy, man, but it's the bull market. It's a market that never fucking goes down, essentially. Anyways, perhaps more political than anything really. Anyways, let's go over and check out Mr. Buterol really quick. What's he doing? What's this beautiful bitch doing? Mr. Buterol, come over here. Not as easy of a chart as Litecoin or Bitcoin, and probably just likely to follow Litecoin and Bitcoin to begin with. But I would say we do have a nice little pivot to be managing things off of right here on the purple 200 exponential moving average. If we can actually regain it at 223, then I would be looking for a move actually back up towards 232.5, and that's where things can get a little bit interesting, because if Mr. Buterol actually can close above 232.5 to 233, I'd be looking for a move significantly higher. And when I say significantly higher, I mean actually all the way up here towards maybe $275, maybe even $300 would be kind of the more medium to long-term trajectory. But for right now, still kind of stuck within the mud right here and not leading the market. But if you do see that Bitcoin and Mrs. Litecoin kind of initiate those moves that we were speaking about above those specific pivots, then we could perhaps look at Mr. Buterol to be one of the bigger gainers from that, as I do strongly believe that we'd find our way into that region if that gets initiated. More importantly, I suppose we can go look at Mr. Ripple's nipples as well for a second. Very sultry. And Mr. Ripple's nipples also makes me believe that we actually do tick up here. You can see that he's been defending the same trend line for the past year very valiantly. Very, very respectable, Mr. Ripple's. And I do think that it actually does head back up here towards about 33.5 cents, probably even 34.5 cents actually. And if we can actually even just close a daily above 34.5 cents, this thing's going to take on a whole new meaning and probably work its way back up towards like 38 to 40 cent region, somewhere here. The fact is that we're getting a good reaction off this trend line once again, and this trend line has been your friend for the past year. I know a lot of people hate Ripple. I know a lot of people want to see this fail, but I can't get bearish on this thing until you actually break this trend line to the downside below 30 cents. Then we can talk about moves into the mid to low teens, and then maybe even as low as 8 cents. But for right now, still holding this area, and looks to me like it wants to turn around here. We do see daily stokes the upside. What about weekly? I'm curious what weeklies are doing. Weekly's down right now. Yeah, weekly's still down, but having a damn good reaction off this region. I think that we tighten this up more and actually go to the upside here, which again, the market for the most part moves together. So if that's going to be bullish, likely the rest of the market falls through to the upside as well, which is kind of what I think for the medium and low time frames right now. Again, the higher time frame still very much unresolved. Going over here to Bitcoin dominance chart, just kind of like sidestep looking at all of the altcoins. We can just look at the Bitcoin dominance chart. We hit a couple of measure moves. We also wicked off the purple 200 exponential moving average. While longer term, I am very bullish on this. I'd say for the next, probably for the next, at the very least, couple weeks, 2-3 weeks, maybe even a couple months. I do expect this to come down. First target's already been hit at 66.5. But second area of interest would be right around 65.5. I do want to see the reaction around 65.5, which would imply that alts get to play around a little bit more here. I'd imagine that most alts are rallying versus Bitcoin, probably going to hit their weekly 10. But the 65.5% region right here, very, very important. If we do lose this, which is probably going to take a long time if it does happen. I'm not so confident that it actually does happen. Then I'd be looking for a move significantly lower into the lower 60% region, which is just going to benefit alts more. But for now, I do think that we're going to see a lot of alts start to rally up if they haven't already. We said that lows were coming for alts last week. I would still kind of hold on to that. And I think that they're gonna enjoy a couple weeks here, but longer term, like I said, I am still bullish on this. So it's only a short reprieve in the grand scheme of things. If you're looking at like a quarterly schedule, perhaps, but just kind of taking a quick look at Cardano here, we do see that Cardano breaking out above the yellow 21. It's already hit our first target at 630 or 640, and I do think that it accelerates toward this next target around 700 Satoshis region, and then we'll probably see the Bitcoin dominance fall down to around 65.5. At that point, then we'll kind of reassess. But for now, most alts I'd imagine are going to rally up, and probably their weekly 10 is going to be an area of interest, I'd imagine. Anyways, we looked at all that. Okay, all right. Let's see. Do we want to look at gold really quick? Yeah, let's look at gold. Gold still holding the yellow 21, still okay technically. I mean, if you're still long, I suppose it's still okay to hold longs. Of course, it's not financial advisor, not a financial advisor, but I'm not. This one looks difficult right here. I think silver actually has a little bit more of an easier chart. Gold weekly did close, and it closed pretty much as a non-event. I mean, this is not very helpful right here. Is the problem from a TA perspective. Weekly Stokes do want to cross to the downside. Weekly RSI is giving us a little bit of bearish divergence here. Maybe we do pop back down to 1375, 1385 region, but I'm not really leaning towards it just because silver does look strong, and I do believe that these guys trade with each other. Anyways, back on a Bitcoin, and so we've covered Litecoin, we covered Mr. Buterol. Let's go back to Bitcoin now. Start to wrap this bitch up perhaps as well. I think I've spoken about most of the things that I want to speak about. Let's go check out the expected moves range. We do see the expected moves for the daily actually showing a pretty tight range within this region. Even within the first standard deviation, bringing us between about 9450 and 10,150, essentially, which that would resolve. That would actually resolve a few things if we initiate the downside there, but to the upside wouldn't resolve all that much. Just the medium time frames, which we already talked about, probably move to like maybe 10.5. But right now, more importantly, the expected moves with regards to historic volatility is telling you exactly what we should be seeing, and that is one massive consolidation, which should be reflected on some like a daily, a daily historical volatility percentile, which is exactly what we see. Like we said earlier in this video, this actually starting to finally get below the moving average on this does suggest that we are going to, we're not done here quite yet. So again, I think that's kind of where I want to leave it. I suppose I'll just wrap this bitch up really quick. For the lower time frames, and we're going to kind of work them up here, but for the lower time frames, areas of interest to the downside is about 9,700, basically the 4-hour 377 exponential moving average right here. Any sort of a break below there, and probably going to have the avalanche of effects. I'd say at the very least a target down to about 9,300, 9,350 maybe. Would be looking for a short-term bounce there on the very low time frames, but ultimately likely work its way lower if that does happen. I do believe that if we break this blue box to the downside, we're not just going to stop there. It's going to be a short reprieve and then probably lower, and we actually do hit those targets down to about 8,900 after that, and then 8,500 would be the next one after that. By the same token, we did hit our short-term target at 9,900, not bad. I do think that this actually does take this area out, so any sort of a closing basis above this, and I do think that we work our way into the 10,050 to 10,150 region right here. That's where things get a little more interesting. It doesn't solve anything, but it does start to present another major trade, not a major trade opportunity, but a trade opportunity nonetheless. And if we can actually just even trade above 10,150, basically above this little past prior local high right here, then I'd be looking for a nice move back over to about 10.4 to 10.5 region, basically test the daily 21 exponential moving average, and that's where things can really change for me for a medium and long-term position. Remember, one of my rules is, for better or worse, that I don't play any asset long. I don't hold medium or long-term longs unless if it's a scalp, as long as we're below the daily 21 exponential moving average in an overall macro uptrend, and vice versa for a downtrend. And you can see that we lost it right on over here, so that rule has really helped me stay out of all of this fackage right here, as you can see, which I'm quite happy about. So again, that's why I have these, those sorts of rules, and perhaps you might find that you might find that useful yourself. Perhaps not. I mean, again, it's a little bit more conservative, but as you can see, it does kind of keep me out of the basically sideways action, which hasn't really. I mean, and also downwards here, but mostly sideways. So it's kind of keeping my money out of a not moving asset, always thinking about opportunity cost. Playing options right now, kind of the best thing to be doing, in my opinion. Just capture ranges, essentially benefit from the lack of movement, the lack of major trending plays, and think of it in that way. I think a lot more deductive and a lot more just easy on the soul, really. So yeah. while it probably doesn't happen between now and the next video that I post, but if we were to take out the 21 to the upside, then I would be looking for a move actually towards 11,000. But here's the thing, and now that I think about it, this is worth talking about, and I'll kind of end on this. This falling channel right here, this did break to the upside a couple days ago on that move that we spoke about to 10,150. Remember that? Yes. Actually, the measure move off this falling channel is actually a little bit higher. It's actually towards 10,350 to 10,400, which is where the daily 21 is. Of course, an area of massive interest. And then more importantly, with regards to that, this actually is still available. This is still very much active. It doesn't get negated until we actually break this last little low right here, which would essentially imply a close, not just close, but an open and close, like a full-on break, a confirmed kill of the blue 377 exponential moving average on the 4-hour total time frame. So if that were to happen, then yes, we can talk about much more significant downside targets. But until it actually gets broken, this is still technically valid, and that would be lining up perfectly with the daily 21. So if you are looking at the lower and medium time frames, those are the areas of interest that I'd be looking at right here. Of course, higher time frames, I mean, basically 13,000 and like 9,500 on a closing basis is kind of where I'd be looking towards. So a lot of work needs to be done there. Weekly will resolve in a couple days, so that'll be nice. And then of course CME is closing in about an hour. Not an hour, but in about 22 minutes. So we should have resolution on that. If CMEs do close anywhere below the red 10 simple, I'd say that that's going to be a bad signal. But so far so good. We are above 10,000 actually. The red 10 simple coming in around 99 and 15 bucks. So it looks like it probably does maintain it, and still kind of chugging along here. So that's going to do it for right now. I do want to wish you well on this nice little Friday. I'll be back on tomorrow with some more video analysis. Also going to be uploading some more psychological videos, which I'm really happy about. I really enjoy producing those. So I hope that I hope that it helps someone out there, because I'd like to continue doing it, man. It's probably not worth it if no one's listening to it. But I really enjoy making those, because it's something that I'm probably the most passionate about. Had to really learn a lot about my own psychology, just to kind of do this really. So kind of comes full circle, I suppose. But always learning. And with that said, I do want to wish you the best Friday. Just as always, have a nice, relaxing, peaceful, and perhaps even profitable Friday as well. I'll be back on tomorrow. Looking forward to seeing you there. If not, take care.